ahead of the second G20 summit session, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration has been adopted. He congratulated all Sherpas for achieving the tremendous task and lauded them for the hard work. Listen in.
और आप सभी के सहयोग से नई दिल्ली G20 लीडर्स समिट डिक्लेरेशन पर सहमति बनी है। मेरा प्रस्ताव है कि इस लीडर्स डिक्लेरेशन को भी एडॉप्ट किया जाए। मैं इस डिक्लेरेशन को एडॉप्ट करने की घोषणा करता हूं। इस अवसर पर मैं हमारे मंत्रीगण, शेरपा और सभी अधिकारियों का हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूं, जिन्होंने अथाक परिश्रम करके इसे सार्थक किया है।
The New Delhi Leaders' Declaration focuses on strong, sustainable, balanced, inclusive growth, accelerating the progress on Sustainable Development Goals, Green Development Pact for a Sustainable Future, multilateral institutions for the 21st century, and reinvigorating multilateralism. India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant also shared the news on X, formerly Twitter. He posted that today's era must be marked as the golden age of human-centric globalization. The big announcement comes after reports of a consensus between the delegates. Let me tell you what the declaration says on the war in Ukraine. Paragraph 8 of the declaration focuses on the Ukraine war. The war has been mentioned 4 times in the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration. It echoes Prime Minister Modi's statement, today's era must not be of war. The declaration also supports all initiatives for peace in Ukraine. All states must refrain from the threat or use of force. They must act as per the principles of the UN, and use or threat of use of nuclear weapons is inadmissible. Meanwhile, at the press briefing by the G20 presidency, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that the message of India's presidency is one earth, one family and one future. He reiterated the importance of the Leaders' Declaration on which nations have agreed upon. Jaishankar said that the declaration envisages principles for sustainable and inclusive growth.
The declaration that the leaders have agreed on today focuses on promoting strong, sustainable, balanced and inclusive growth. It seeks to accelerate progress on SDGs and has come up with an action plan accordingly. It envisages a Green Development Pact for a sustainable future. It endorses high-level principles on lifestyle for sustainable development, voluntary principles on hydrogen, the Chennai Principles for a Sustainable and Resilient Blue Economy, and the Deccan Principles on Food Security and Nutrition, among others.
Meanwhile, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said, under India's presidency, no one should be left behind in the pursuit of development. So they have taken in account the particular needs of the Global South. She added that they have crafted solutions to meet the requirements of divergent interests of varied groups for co-development.
Agreement on the need for a better, bigger and more effective MDBs, because the developmental demands from all across the globe is so high, these institutions will have to be better and bigger. This is also going to contribute to enhancing representation and voice of developing countries in the decision making.
India's finance minister also endorsed the Financial Stability Board's high-level recommendations for the regulation, supervision and oversight of crypto assets activity and markets of global stablecoin arrangements, further adding that India had received tremendous support from G20 members across the table. The outcomes of the Indian presidency are a testimony to India's commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation. Meanwhile, India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant said that one of the biggest achievements for the summit is what they achieved on women-led development. With a massive focus on women empowerment and gender equality, we've created a new working group on empowerment of women, which Brazil will carry forward. Listen in.
One of the biggest achievements of this New Delhi Leaders Declaration is what we've achieved on women-led development with a massive focus on women empowerment and gender equality. And this focuses on reducing labor force participation gap, bridging the gender digital divide. There's a huge focus on gender inclusive climate action. There's a completely big focus on women's food security, nutrition and well-being. And we've created a new working group on empowerment of women, which Brazil will carry forward.
And for more on this, let's now cut across to our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibil. He is at the G20 venue. Siddhant, the G20 declaration has arrived. Consensus has been reached. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, Priyanka, the last I came live was 3 p.m. and it's 5:30 p.m. In that time period, I would say that complete change has taken place in terms of the outcomes. First, of course, everyone is expecting that the joint declaration will be announced tomorrow on Sunday when the summit gets over, but it was announced early. And not only the joint declaration was announced, there is a substantive reference to Ukraine, something that nobody had ever imagined, a new language regarding the Ukraine conflict, something that both the West, led by the US, and Russia are okay with. There are references to the Turkey brokered the Black Sea Grain Initiative. There is reference to the UN Charter should be respected, including the territorial integrity of state. And this is something that many right now are looking as a miracle which has happened in many ways. The New Delhi Declaration will be seen as a new milestone in the several declarations India has seen. In fact, the G20 grouping has seen in the past. While the Bali joint declaration everyone saw as a consensus document, which was something of a miracle, but what has happened in New Delhi is a different ball game. The other big achievement, of course, is African Union's inclusion into the G20, and that is something which we have been talking about since morning. But coming back to the joint statement, not only the mention of Ukraine in the joint statement, but also the focus on climate, the focus on the concerns of the global south, on cryptocurrency, on terrorism, as well on FATF. These are the other areas. It is a 37-page long document, which of course the finer print will be read and reread. But essentially, to sum up, as the Indian External Affairs Minister said, that the focus was to make sure that everyone is on board and the concerns of every part of the planet are put in this declaration. Clearly, it is a big victory for Indian diplomacy from the G20 summit, which is still ongoing.
Right, Siddhant, you mentioned that consensus on the declaration is a miracle. It's also a huge diplomatic win for India. India's foreign minister clearly said, when asked about the language used, that Bali was Bali, New Delhi is New Delhi. Tell us more about the strong messaging coming through.
Well, a strong message from New Delhi, not only in terms of its diplomatic skills, but also in terms of the naysayers, because nobody had expected a first joint statement till today morning. There were murmurs, but nobody could confirm that there is a joint statement coming or not. But the joint statement is being compared with Bali because of the Ukraine language. Now, when we look at the Bali declaration issued last year in November, there were two paragraphs, basically something that the Indonesians were able to achieve. The conflict had just started and the warring factions had a lot of issues, but the Indonesians did what they did. But in this new document, we know that the focus is that how all sides can come together.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on